welcome to the show, everyone. This is Being Creative. My name is Rick Leaf. As you know, I am the host of this show where we explore the value of creativity through stories of successes and failures of individuals like us or not like us at all. This week, I'm recording in the Canadian Arctic at the very school where I first met my guest, Ms Natalie Diaz, so many, many years ago. I happen to be back at Chief Sunrise in Katlodeche First Nation, where I'm calling her because she assured me in a direct message on Instagram that she has a creative story worth being told. And she was very trustworthy when I knew her at the school. So this is going to be a good one. Let's jump into this week's episode. I'm glad you're here. Well, this week, it's a little bit different than most because I'm not just sitting in my studio talking to myself. I actually have somebody on the line. I have Natalie Diaz, known as, what do your students call you? Ms D?
Ms Diaz. No, they did the whole name.
Yeah?
Ms Diaz, that's what they always called me.
Okay, we met many years ago. I actually happen to be doing the show from the Northwest Territories right now, and this is actually the community where I met Natalie, and we were just, before we started recording, trying to figure out if that's been 5 years or more.
Since I've been there?
Since you've been there? Well, that was the last time I saw you, right?
Yes. Yeah, I would say when you came by, maybe the last time you were there, I probably had a 1-year-old. So yeah, about 5 years ago.
It's really crazy. Okay, when you were up here, Natalie, what were you teaching? What grades were you teaching?
I was in Butchigo before that for a year. I was teaching phys ed there, yeah. And then I went to the reserve there on Hatlodeche First Nations, and I was there for about 5 years.
So we must have worked there for a number of years together. Jeez, my brain is just like, it's hard to remember.
Yeah, I feel like the first time you went there, it was my first year there. Yes. You were there maybe my second year. And, but then I was on mat leave, so I probably missed you there.
Right.
And I was on mat leave at some point. Yeah.
So when you left Chief Sunrise, then you said you went to Germany. Were you teaching in Germany?
We were open to that possibility. So my husband's German. That's why we went to Germany.
Gotcha.
We thought if our son's in the kindergarten there, he can learn German. And we thought, okay, let's just see where this takes us. Let's see if we stay longer or we decide to come back. But it seemed like a nice little adventure to do.
Right. Cool. So you were there for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're in Ontario.
Now I'm in Ontario. Yeah.
And teaching?
Yeah. I am actually. I didn't think I'd want to go back into teaching, actually. So I took a little break. And I just got back into it about 10 months ago with the idea of okay, I'm going to see how I feel about this again. Because it took a lot out of me the first time around. And yeah, but I'm loving it. So yeah, I just needed a little break.
Gotcha. What grade are you teaching?
Right now I'm primary, K-3. But yeah, up north I was usually with intermediate kids, grades 6 to 8. That was my favorite group to work with. Yeah.
That would be your choice if you.
Yeah.
If you could.
Yeah, I really like that age.
So you know that this whole show is about, being creative. It's what it's called, but it's the idea of, creativity has something to do with everything from problem solving to team building to resiliency and conflict resolution and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious as to kind of, I know I sent you an email and just said, do you have a story along this kind of lines where, maybe something in the classroom with kids or whatever. So what have you got for me?
I guess it's from my experiences with grade 6, 7, 8. It was like my second or third year working with that group. And I just found myself feeling really exhausted that I couldn't find a way to engage them. I was just trying everything, and I would get the same kind of behavior every day where they slowly trickle in, sit down, kind of slumped in their chairs. I could barely get
it in my mind.
Yes, right? Their hoods on.
Yeah.
They're very sweet, but I was trying to get like some kind of reaction, some kind of like motivation. And I just felt like I was failing there. And I don't know. I felt like I was a really organized person. I thought I had lots of ideas, but I just suddenly felt like maybe I was doing too much work. Maybe it was all kind of coming from me, and I needed find a way to make it come from them. Oh. And then I thought, how about I bring in this concept of choice? And I went to the principal, Christina, at the time, and I kind of asked if she would allow me to try something different. I'm like, can I just change everything? Cool. I just need to change it because it's not working. Yeah. And luckily, she gave me that freedom. I'm really lucky. She's like, all right, let's see. And so it came about in a lot of different ways, but I thought, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get them kind of used to this idea of time management and working with agendas. So I brought them all agendas and said, all right, let's figure out how we can kind of, set goals and think, break them up, and how are we going to achieve those little goals, and let's have some timelines here, and kind of taught them how to use their agenda. And then when I look back, I guess the concept I had was kind of like kindergarten centers, okay, where essentially when the students came in, they could decide what they wanted to do. They could decide what they wanted to learn. They could decide how they were going to even present their learning to us. They knew that they had to share it with the school and potentially the community at times. I guess like for every subject, I had to structure it in a way where it's like, okay, let's introduce maybe like a topic, and let's kind of come up with lots of questions and what are you curious about here? And eventually they would choose something they were curious about, and they could kind of research or investigate. And they could decide how they wanted to structure their day. So, if they're the type of student that wanted to just sit down all day, then they wouldn't be able to reach any of their goals, and they would have to deal with those consequences themselves. Right. So there were breaks, like they could take breaks whenever they wanted. There were conditions, like they had like a little social room that they can go into. So, in the hallway there where they have that little like exit, like a little room, like a little insulated room, they could hang out in there. But I said, make sure there's no more than 3 of you or so. I'm like, or you could take a bathroom break, or you could eat. You decide, but just don't interrupt other people. And I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know. I just, there were the kids, like your go-getters, that would just immediately like, all right, like, let me do this, and I'm busy, like, leave me alone. Yeah. And then there were other students, like the ones that were really like I was trying to get to. They would come into class like they were used to. They would sit down, slump over. Yeah. And you could see that they'd get restless after a while. Right. They're like, wait a second. I'm supposed to be doing something. They're like, and eventually, like sometimes it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but eventually they're like, all right, like, let's get working. And I don't know, I felt like there was a lot more engagement. The principal herself said that she had seen some of those kids produce things that she's never seen them produce before. Right. It was really great for the kids that didn't come to school often either, because when they would come in, they could just kind of, I don't know, just continue from where they left off the last time. There weren't these huge gaps like, oh, I've been missing and I'm like 3/4 into a unit. I'm like, I don't even know what to do now because you've missed everything. So it was really great for those ones because, you know, we had some kids that were, you know, maybe coming twice a month sometimes, like once a week. So they were able to complete projects by the end. And I had, like, I would always have lessons throughout the day too, though. Like, it wasn't just sit down and kind of do your own thing all day. I had to still do lessons, like math lessons. Yep. I made appointments with them throughout the day so that I can, I guess, help them or, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd make appointments like, okay, I'm meeting with you at this time, like make time for me because we're going to go over and see where exactly you are in your projects, what you need help with, how can we, you know, keep you on the right track. I still do like, you know, little reading groups with the students. So I was, in a weird way, they were busy and I was really busy too. We were just all working. And because it was one-on-one, it was just like constantly pulling different kids aside.
Right.
And
Boy, you know, I find that just fascinating because I'm thinking, you know, for a student, that was grade 6 to 8-ish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, that is that transitioning period of development from, you know, being a little kid to being like a young adult. You're not really an adult yet, but you're also not really like the little kid anymore. And just how many even cultures have, you know, some sort of ceremony that kind of takes you here. Today is your moment. You are now no longer, you know, a kid. You're an adult, and you have the responsibilities and the freedoms of that. And it's almost like when you were describing them, you know, coming in and it's like, I'm just going to sit here and wait for somebody to direct me like they did when I was in grade 2. But you don't really want that. But if you've never had the opportunity to step up and go, okay, like, what if I am in charge of my own, you know, next hour? What would I choose to do? I think that's a really empowering perspective. I love that.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really see it in that sense of kind of like that transition between childhood and adulthood and giving them that power. You make really good points there. And I knew it was giving them a lot more responsibility and accountability.
Right.
I felt that up until then, you know, sometimes when you're that student that just sits down quietly and just, you feel like you're just supposed to say what the teacher wants you to say. And sometimes you don't know the answer and you keep guessing until you get it right. You're like, okay, good. All right.
Right.
And you kind of slip on by and you feel like that's enough. And I don't know. In this case, they couldn't do that.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like a lot of them gained some confidence. Maybe, you know, some of them were stressed, but I think in a good way. Like sometimes I'd say, okay, I need to do a math lesson right now. Everyone, let's join together. And some people would say, oh my God, like I have too many things to do right now. like, do we have to do this? I'm like, what? Like, they're just so stressed about their deadline.
They're self-imposed deadlines.
Well, you know what? Those deadlines I did actually, like, maybe I did. I was like, okay, we're the end of this unit. It's going to be this day. So let's like break it down. But I don't know. I mean, like, I also was really afraid that some of those students wouldn't be going into grade 9. They wouldn't choose to.
Right.
And what if this was their last year?
Right.
You know, what skills do they need? And
boy, that's a really good point.
Yeah, like there's the sense of responsibility, the accountability, meeting deadlines, and, you know, self-assessment and goal setting, and like, what are you really focusing right now? And we had a little like bulletin board up there in the classroom about their goals in different areas. you know? So one of them was self-regulation. Like, you know, some of them, you know, we identified like, yeah, you're a student that tends to kind of come in and sit down and you're stuck there. Maybe you're mentally stuck or physically stuck, but you're stuck. So like, what can we do? What can you start working on? You know? And sometimes it's just like, just get up and just go to the easiest center there is, like reading, just go.
Right.
You know? And so, you know, and I would remind them of that. Like if they came in and I noticed, okay, they're going to sit there, I'd say, okay, remember what your goals are. Like, you know, which one are you working on? So, you know, I try to meet with them to like have them assess, like, do you think you've made improvements in this area? Like, what have you noticed? What do you need to do? I mean, it wasn't perfect, but.
Well, then I don't think any actual solution really is.
Yeah.
You're talking about them being curious. I'm curious, like, where I get. So my question is going to be, like, I think there's a lot of teachers, I think there's a lot of people that get, say, frustrated with the limitations of the system or the structure or the institution that they're working in. You took it this really important extra step where you're just like, I'm moving beyond just being frustrated and kind of complaining about it, you know, in the staff room or something, and I'm like coming up with a solution. But where did you come up with the solution? Like, were you reading about something where you're just like, I think this will work?
Yeah.
It was like intuition?
It was, I truly mean it. Like, it was just like, what's not working? Like, what should I do? Like, I don't know. And I don't know. It's like how, I have no idea. And I was just so frustrated. And somehow I just came to that idea that it had to be something with choice, that they could choose. Like, sometimes I didn't want to fight them anymore. Like, okay, we're doing math now, let's go. And maybe someone wanted to read instead, you know? Yeah. And I just feel like, shouldn't we, you know, like maybe I should kind of follow what they want to do, but like, how does that even work? And it was an experiment. It was definitely an experiment. And I would say I probably burnt myself out by the end of it, because I was maybe too many.
Hang on, everybody. I have to phone her back. I don't know how I lost you.
You want me?
I lost you there.
Yeah, maybe it was me. I don't know.
Do you remember what you were talking about, though? You were talking about how you kind of maybe burned yourself out. Yes,
because I was doing too many new things at once. Right. And, you know, and I remember asking people at school, like, where can I get advice? Because when you feel like you're reinventing the wheel, like, and they'd say, well, there's nowhere else to look, right, because you're doing something new. And obviously, like, different aspects of the day, I would try to research, like, oh, is there something about time management, or is there something about goal setting? And but when I look back on it now, I don't know if it's necessarily that new of an idea. I think, you know, maybe there's other movements like this. Right. Like, I don't know, like, is Montessori like this? I don't know. I don't know, but I definitely see the issue. I would love to, like, further kind of explore that idea, but I do think too it does depend on the type of class you have.
Right.
Maybe some classes wouldn't really thrive with that. I know up north, though, I was able to pursue that idea because of where I was working.
Well, if your principal has your back,
yeah,
that's huge.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the team that I had there.
Yeah.
You know, the superintendent even knew about it. And, you know, like, so it, right. I don't know. And, like, I feel that the community themselves, do they trust the school more? I don't know. But when I work in a different school, like, you know, working now, I don't have that freedom to do everything that I want. And that was the beauty about working in the Northwest Territories. There was just so much more freedom.
Well, you bring up like a really interesting point to me. I mean, I come from the art and culture industry that I've, you know, found my way into the education system as a kind of a creative consultant. But my perspective on my own industry, you would think that arts and culture would be really innovative and creative and full of, I mean, you can't have innovation without creativity. So you'd think because you're in this creative industry, you'd have tons of innovation, and on the practical level, artistic level, you would. Our institutions, whether it was the Canada Council for the Arts or SOCAN or Factor or Manitoba Film and Sound or any of the organizations I've ever worked with, they're actually some of the least innovative and creative organizations I've met.
That's sad.
And I've realized it's because, you know, the creative class is not actually in charge of that. It's the managers and the people who know how to manage systems and institutions and structures are the ones who rise to places of power, and they're not the innovators themselves. And I've definitely seen that from the outside looking in on education. You know, to travel from school to school to school, or different territories or places in the country, and I have no idea, like, because I'm not an educator, I have no idea how this standardized testing does not kill virtually every good thing in the world. Because, you know, you see this place, like, you're instilling, in what you've just described, you're really instilling advocacy for yourself, self-management, all of those things, initiative, playing to your strengths, like time management, schedule management, every skill that kid would need walking out of that school. I'm just like, that's such an exciting, I mean, I don't know what happened to any of those kids after they left your class, but I can only imagine that this experience was like positive for them moving forward.
I hope so. I talked to some of them now, but you know, it's funny what you were saying about how even in your industry, how, I guess, restrictive it can be. And, you know, you find that in education too. You would think when we're working with children, our futures, that there would be like room for innovation in a sense, right? But you know what? I'm finding recently, I don't feel like sometimes it's the school board themselves that are now dictating how we learn. I mean, they do. They have a huge say. But now it's like some parents have a say. Like, you know, the parents that jump at every little thing that a teacher might be doing. And, you know, you have all these liability issues. It's like, you can't do anything now. And I don't know. I feel like in that sense, that's how I'm feeling most of the limitations.
Right.
Now it's like, you know, I'm not necessarily worried about a principal telling me no. Right. You know, there are some really flexible principals out there, but now I feel like a lot of hands are tied because, oh, wait, what if that parent comes out and now is critical of this?
Right.
You know? And I'm like, oh, my
forbid.
goodness. Yes. It is so frustrating. And,
no, you're right.
And yeah, so when I look back working at Chief Sunrise, I don't think I fully appreciated what I had to the fullest extent. Like, I loved it there. I loved the kids. I loved the community, you know, but now it's like, wow, like I really had a good, like I had a special experience.
Well, and you know what? Like, it is such a small school, but it is one of my favorite, if not like, in the entire country. And all I've done for 10 years is travel to schools, and there's just something so special about, Yeah. There's probably no teachers left from when you were here.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I know Diane's still there.
Diane is,
Diane and
actually.
Dolores.
Got to spend the day with her out on the land today.
Oh.
Yeah, her and some of the, Dolores, some of the support staff is still the same, but
yeah.
I guess I'm to say that I'm just excited that there's something bigger than any of the one or two. I mean, everybody's special and unique and plays a really important part in making a community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that, even when some of the administrators or the teachers or whatever that I connected with, and I'm just like, whoa, that's going to be different going back. That teacher's not there, or that teacher's not there, or it's a new principal, or I wonder how it's going to go. And it still remains every single time I come this really, really special experience. And so I just think there's something.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
When I look back, it's that culture that we had in the school. Everyone seemed to be on the same page. I don't know if it was something that we kind of got from the community itself too, because it was a small community. It's like a big family.
Yeah.
And somehow that made us all connected too in the school. All the classes were linked in some kind of way. Mm-hmm. Their older brothers and sisters, and you knew all their families, and all the teachers kind of collaborate in that sense too.
Yeah.
And it just we all I just felt like we all really deeply cared about the kids.
Yeah.
It was really special. If something bad happened, we were devastated along with the community.
Mm-hmm.
It is a really special school.
So, is that what you were kind of talking about? You didn't know if you wanted to come back. Right at the beginning, you said you didn't know if you wanted to go back to teaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like maybe when I was up north, I got really invested in the kids, and I don't know if you're ever really truly ready for all the trauma that residential schools had on Indigenous communities. And when you're there and you just see it, it's devastating. You only get a small little kind of idea, but you're I don't know. I found it really hard, and then I had some kind of mental health breakdown. Then I've never, ever had any history of any kind of mental health issues, and I just then kind of thought maybe teaching is too much for me, because it's you get so invested, and it's so much of who, I don't know, you put so much of who you are into it.
Yep.
And I was just thinking maybe I just want something simpler. I don't know. I didn't know. I knew I needed to go because I felt like I was burnt out and I'd be a disservice really as a teacher. I'm you know what? I can't put in all my energy, and you need to be all there.
Yep.
And so I just, in a way, maybe that's why we went to Germany. I don't know. We wanted to try something new. So, while I was in Germany, I thought, maybe I won't go back into teaching. I don't know. And
you weren't teaching
I was a little
in
bit,
Germany?
No. I tried to, I applied here and there, but never got anything. And I was kind of grateful for the break anyway.
Right.
And when I came back to Ontario, I thought, I don't know, do I really want to get into it? So much work, and can I take that again? But I thought I'd give it a try. So I got back into teaching, I think April last year. So it's been almost a year.
Okay.
And I'm happy to be back. I am happy to be back. It is easier in some ways. Right. But because of the lack of trauma, I guess.
Well, I don't know. It was in the last year or two. I was in a school somewhere in northern BC. at least the second time I'd been there, a small little community, and the principal said, "Oh, come over to my house and have a glass of wine with me and my husband, tonight or whatever." So I wandered over to their house, and this was maybe, Tuesday or Wednesday night, I don't know. And I was going to be in that school for a week, and she said, it's probably Tuesday night. And she's like, "Okay, well, you've been in my school for a couple days. You probably figured out all of my staff. You know which ones are in over their head, which ones are super engaged and loving it, and which ones are just coasting to retirement." And I never actually categorized teachers in such a way. But to be fair, as she said all of those categories, these faces popped into my head, and I was like, I knew exactly who she was talking about. And
isn't it funny?
It is funny, and it's
sad too.
Well, and it's sad, and I guess I feel like at this point, like you were talking about, you have your, like, to me, the teachers who are just like, I don't give a rip anymore. I'm just, they're counting down the days and weeks and months and years or whatever it is to their pension, and I get it, and if they were content to just sit at the back of that sort of staff room with their hoodie up and not drag anyone else down, I'd say, whatever, man, it's your life. Go for it. It's odd to me to watch how some people who aren't happy and they're not inspired and they don't want to put that effort in actually somehow seem to feel that the success or the enthusiasm of somebody else somehow comes at their expense. And to see that kind of old guard want to tear you down or kind of put the thumb down on any ideas or innovation, and I can just think of all of the teachers who would listen to your story, feel what the pain was for the problem you were trying to solve, who would go to their principal, maybe not be supported or whatever, or try to speak that out maybe in a staff meeting or a staff room, and not have the support and have the opposite. Like, you can't do that. That's a stupid idea. I feel like I picked that up in a lot of different schools, and so I think I'm just really glad that you had that support in that moment for you to be able to take that step and then have that success with those kids. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because if the principals granted me with that, what I then was able to grant my own students, that freedom, that sense of choice. So I feel sorry for teachers that are in situations where they don't really have that freedom. And I just, I always hope, I don't know, like when you lose that spirit to teach, like that drive, and you're just coasting. I think maybe I was lucky that I was able to take time off, but I can't help but think of the ethical implications of that. Like you have students there that are spending like an entire year with you, and how many hours a day are they with you? Yeah. I don't know. Like like, oh dear, I can't help it. I wouldn't want it for my own kids. So
that's right.
Sometimes you just have to make that decision to walk away. I don't know, but maybe it's just easier said than done. That comes with privilege. So.
I guess we just do what we can do, right?
Yeah, sometimes Ruth always said, sometimes people are just trying the best they can.
Right.
And at the time, I was like, oh, God, like, I don't agree with you. But now, like, but I do now. She's always really forgiving that way. So.
Well, I love that story. That's a really good one.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, it was a fun time, exhausting, but exciting. I say it was really exciting.
So you're
kindergarten. They're on the right track there, giving that sense of choice.
Yeah. So you're teaching the little dudes right now.
Yeah, I'm actually teaching them phys ed, art, dance, and health.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty great day.
It is. It's like amazing. And I'm like a rock star, you know, because every time I come into a classroom, they cheer my name, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, hey. They're like, what day is it today? I'm like, art. They're like, yeah. You know, is it June today? Yes. I'm like, honestly, like, I have like an amazing day every day, generally. They're just so excited.
That sounds awesome. I'm glad for you.
Yeah. And how old are your kids now?
They're in their 20s.
What? Oh my gosh!
I know. Were you that Chief Sunrise when I brought my daughter? We still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a class that she did, right?
She was doing martial arts with all the kids.
Yes. Okay, now it's all coming back to me. Yes.
Yeah, what am I saying? I can actually right now picture you in the video. In the lobby. When we got everybody in the lobby.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah. And I always remember your story about how you guys left and traveled. I often look back, you know, when you're saying how your daughter was like more of a homebody and you're kind of worried about how she'd be, but she totally kind of just adapted and like thrived in the new kind of lifestyle you guys had. I don't know. I always think about it because, you know, I do love traveling and and how kids benefit from change and exploring the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for coming on this little episode and sharing your story.
No problem.
Because
No
that
problem.
was
Thank you.
really great. And if you have another story that comes up, send me an email.
I'm
We'll
like,
talk
let me
about that
think.
one as well.
I can't think of one, but who knows? But yeah, thank you so much for listening and being excited about my story. It's always nice that people share that kind of enthusiasm for this. So.
Absolutely. Okay, well,
okay.
Until next time, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Hang on, don't hang up on me.
I know.